So Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Text 10. And it will happen here in Manor. So the title of the chapter is The Appearance of Shrimad. Sa samrat kashyava hetu andunam manavadana prayopavisto gangayam anadritya dirachyam Sasamrat Kashyava Hetu Bandunam Manavandana Prayopavisto Gangayam Anadritya Dirashriyam. That's one time. Vaishnavis. So, forward translation. Saha, he, Samrat, the emperor. Kasya, for what? Va, Eto, reason. Pandunam, of the sons of Pandu. Manava Danaha, one who enriches the family. Praya Upavistaha, sitting and fasting. Gangayam, on the bank of the Ganges. Anadritya, neglecting. Adirat, acquired kingdom. Shriyam, opulences. So translation and purport by divine grace is confirmed. Srila Bhagavatam Bhaktivedanta. Swami Prabhupada Manor Spirit. Srila Prabhupada we should not feel shy to broadcast the power. Srila Prabhupada ki He was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death? Please can we respond to repeat? He was a great emperor.
He was a great emperor.
And possessed all the opulences
Of
of his acquired kingdom.
his acquired kingdom.
He was so exalted that
He was so exalted that
he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty.
he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty.
Why did he give up everything
Why did he give up everything?
to sit down on the bank of the Ganges
To sit down on the bank of the Ganges
and fast until death?
and fast until death.
But Manor was the emperor of the world and all the seas and oceans. He did not have to take the trouble to acquire such a kingdom by his own effort. He inherited it from his grandfathers, Maharaj Yudhishthira, and brothers. Besides that, he was doing well in the administration and was worthy of the good names of his forefathers. Consequently, there was nothing undesirable in his opulence and administration. Then why should he give up all these favorable circumstances and sit down on the bank of the Ganges, fasting till death? This is astonishing, and therefore all were eager to know the cause. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadara, Sri Gaura. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale, Semati Bhaktivedanta, Swami Nityananda, Namaste, Saraswati Deva Gaura. He was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted and he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death? So, Narada Muni, as most of us know, he is the most exalted son of Lord Brahma. Why? Because Narada Muni, according to the Trilokya Upanishad, Narada Muni was so much dear to Lord Brahma because he was taking your study to go around the whole 3 worlds preaching the glories of Lord Krishna. And therefore, Brahma himself specifically mentioned in his dialogue with Narada Muni that you are the best of my sons. And so, this chapter is basically the appearance of Narada. And so, this narration of the episode of Parikshit having to abandon his kingdom, these are delineations by Narada Muni. So, the point is, someone is having a big position in society, a leader. Emperor means a leader. Emperor of the world means a global leader. He was not just the temple president of the Manor. He was a global leader. He was not just the prime minister of this country. He was a global leader. Everything was under his auspices. What makes someone a global leader? What are the qualifications of being a global leader? Yes? Can someone tell us? We read it every day. Those who have done the Baptist House program, they've read it. Those who have done the Bhakti Baba program, they've read it. Those who have read, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, tell us. What are the qualifications? Are you sure? Or
I'm just guessing,
you just testing ground?
Guessing.
Testing ground. Yeah, if you're sure, then you should say it. Say it loud. If you're sure. What are the qualifications? What qualifies someone to be a global leader? Like Maharaj preaching. He also said that. Are you agreeing with him? Why?
One controls the 6 urges, and one can qualify to take instruct others.
Yeah. And one is able to control all of these 6 urges. See, everything we need to know is there in the Vedic literature. Prabhupada has given us everything. It's just that, because when we hear some different type of terminologies, then we wonder, but it's all there in Prabhupada's books. So Prabhupada, Rupa Goswami specifically mentioned that if someone is able to control these 6 urges, the tongue, what we say matters a lot. The anger, the urges of anger, the pushes of the belly, the genitals. So we read about these verses. We read the Nectar of Instruction. It's there in the Nectar of Instruction, the very first text. So how do we relate that to Maharaj Parikshit's situation? Because here Maharaj Parikshit was at a turning point of his life. It's called a crisis situation. So if someone is a global leader, how does he deal with his own personal crisis? What is his mindset? Is he reactive or is he proactive? So here we see that Maharaj Parikshit was basically proactive in this situation. Why? Because he was situated in self-leadership. To rule people is so easy. But do you rule yourself? Do you lead yourself? So this is a typical case of Maharaj Parikshit. Self-leadership. Because even global leadership is subsumed in self-leadership. You can't be a global leader without becoming a self-leader. And so here is the case. We try to control everyone in our family. I'm the man, I have a wife and children, then I try to control everybody. Are you able to control yourself? Yes. No. The challenge is not that someone does something wrong and we react. If someone does something wrong and we become very infuriated, the first test is that we are able to control ourselves at that point in time. Because first, you need some sober mind to deal with a crisis. Without that, it becomes very difficult. And how do you do that? I give you the story. I mean, this is not Purana. This is not some thousands of years ago. Just some few years ago, I was in California, and I went to Laguna Beach for a program. And after the presentation, one gentleman, he came to me, and he told me a story about what happened between himself and his 8 years old daughter. 8 years old. He came back from work one day, and for this was his own expression, and for no apparent reason, he just started insulting his 8 years old daughter. The girl had tolerated everything without any reaction. Later, As some days have passed, he has even forgotten what had happened. They were happy on the table eating, and the 8-year-old girl raised the issue. Dad, you remember the other day you came back from work? This is what you did to me, this is what you did to me, this is what you did to me. Did you have any fight with someone in the office on that day? 8 years old. It's not that the girl was not hurt, or it's not that she didn't feel hurt, but she tolerated. At the time that her mind was calm, father also is sweet, she raised the issue. And this is how to deal with deep-rooted conflicts. This is a typical example of self-leadership. An 8-year-old girl situated in self-leadership. These are the type of people who could become global leaders. Because when they are confronted with crisis, they will be proactive. She was a typical case of proaction. So Manor was proactive. When he got cursed by the Brahmin boy to die in 7 days, he didn't, like Jaduta Swami Maharaj mentioned yesterday, he didn't have to pray to Krishna. Hey Krishna, look, I am the devotee you saved me from the Brahmasam weapon when I was in the womb of Uttara, my mom. What's going on now? Are you going to save me or not? He didn't do that. He was proactive. That will be done. That's a basic expression in the Bible. But the biblical scholars and everyone else who's purportedly following that tradition, it is very difficult, to say or to really practice that will be done. Normally, we are very reactive. But what can we protect? Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit, he simply gave everything else, decisions, whatever situation, into the hands of Krishna. And therefore, he resorted to hearing Lord Krishna's glories. Why? Yam yam vapis maram bhavam terjante ante kalela. Because whatever we remember at the time, at the final hour, that is what we are going to attain. So he wanted to remember Krishna, he wanted to hear the glories of Krishna at the final hour, at the time of death. So he could attain Krishna. Now when people, I was reading some stories of some episode, and here somebody was told he was diagnosed of a particular disease and he was going to die in about some few days or some few months. And so he was expressing what he did. He called up his loved ones, and then they have nice dinner, and then the next day they have nice lunch, and the next day they have nice breakfast, and then went for drinking. So, we have a test waiting for us, and that test is death. And the whole idea of Krishna consciousness is preparation towards that test, to sit for that exams and pass it. Maharaj Parikshit was blessed to know how long he has to stay on. So he took proper advantage. We don't even know how long we're going to stay, whether it is 7 more hours or 7 more minutes. So are we having that emergency consciousness? Who here will say, I'm ready to die now? I'm ready to die now. Raise up your hand. We're not ready. We're not prepared. Because you are praying to Krishna, please give me more time. I have so much of services to render to you. I have my children there, they have not grown up. I have to take care of them. Krishna, please, protect me. Sri Gokulananda, if you really the Lord, the Supreme Lord, please protect me because I have young children. I have to take care of them. Richard had all of the opulences you can think of. He has all of the assets, moving and fixed assets you can think of. But the same will under Krishna. That will be done. And therefore, he resorted to hearing the glories of the Lord. Why hearing the glories of the Lord? Because it is purifying. So all of us, we are supposed to be leaders. It's not somebody that is tagged, oh, it's a GBC, then it's a leader. I remember, when I just joined the movement, and just after first initiation, in those days, after 1 year you stay in the temple, then you get the first initiation. So just after my first initiation, one morning after the Mangarati, one devotee came to tell me that, you should give the Bhagavatam class. So I said, no, I'm not giving Bhagavatam class. I joined this year movement to learn from you. You're the senior people there. You give the class. I don't want to hear. He said, if you don't want to give the class, you go and tell Maharaj. Was my guru was Bhaktivedanta son. So I argue a lot. So I went to meet him. And I told him, see, they asked me to give class. I just joined the movement. I want to hear from the senior people. So he looked at me and he said, Vasudev, who is a senior? He said, the senior is one who is following. Go and give the class. So sometimes we think that, someone has to be tagged, has to have the emblem of, having been there for 50 years and doing some 150 years, that entitles him to a senior. We have elders, we have seniors. We have elders and seniors combined. So the idea is that when we face some crisis, are we going to be proactive or reactive? With all of this knowledge, we have known that we are not these bodies. We know we are not these bodies. But are we really acting on that principle that we are not these bodies? Especially when there's a crisis. Especially when someone hurts us. Someone curses us. Do we curse him back or curse him back? So the emotions, they drive us crazy. And therefore, we have to be aware. We have this information culture, spiritual information culture. We have to align with the tradition that we belong to. And that means by demonstrative efforts. We have to demonstrate. Actions speak, they say, louder than words. So people are watching us, even in our devotional community, other devotees are watching us, especially new devotees, they're watching us. How do we react to situations when someone hurts us? Parishit was hurt by a Brahmin boy. Not just hurt, he was caused to die. Amidst so much of opulence he had acquired from his grandfathers. So when we say, he didn't react because he didn't really work so hard to acquire that opulence. It's not true. Opulence is opulence, whether you acquire it or through your own personal effort. There must be serious attachment. So to become detached just within a moment, that is very difficult. It may take some time, but Parishit did not waste time. The cause was meted out to him, and that was his immediate decision to go to the bank of the Ganges, get some saintly person to recite the Bhagavatam, to recite the glories of the Lord for him to hear. And he fasted till death. Another person who has been diagnosed of a deadly disease, he's enjoying till death. He's drinking, trying to get into merrymaking with family members, with friends till death. And the opposite polarity is what transpired with And so we all are going to die. We all are going to quit these bodies. And so what is required for us is that we have to have emergency consciousness. We have to assume that we have also been cursed to die within 7 days. Then we have to develop that emergency consciousness. When there's a crisis, to make a decision could be very difficult. But look at the case of Manor's prediction. He had the worst crisis of his life, but instantly he made a decision. This is what I'm going to do. So the Bhagavatam is full of amazing stories that we can relate to our own daily lives for spiritual emancipation, to be able to redirect our misdirected civilization. There was a great of the 3 worlds. We don't have anything, and still it is so difficult for us to become fixed in Krishna consciousness, to be focused on our sadhana. That is the misfortune of the Kali Yuga. But as we hear these compelling stories, we should have that arousal to perform better in our Krishna consciousness, so that we don't keep putting off. We have to do this tomorrow. We have to do this next week. Anything worth doing is worth doing now. There's a lot to learn from Maharaj Parikshit's episode. Maharaj Parikshit is a typical example of a crisis leader. A typical example of a self-leader. A typical example of a group leader. And at the same time, he is a devotee of Lord Krishna. So you can be a devotee and be all of this. Why not? Maharaj Parikshit is a typical example. Yes? No? All right, I got some comments and some questions here. Abandoning, Lord Krishna mentioned in the Gita, abandon all varieties of pursuits, religious pursuits, and surrender unto me. You see the case of Maharaj Parikshit. He abandoned all of his opulence. He didn't fight back. But it doesn't mean that if someone does something to you that contravenes the Constitution of England, that they shouldn't fight back. Oh, Maharaj Parikshit, he didn't fight back. This person, he wants to plug my eyes. And so I just have to say, it's my karma. That is stupidity. That's no wisdom. So, we have to understand the design of this material world and not misinterpret the scriptures to our own disadvantage. It's so easy to misinterpret the scriptures and simply kill ourselves. But when it comes to issues of life and death, that invokes a lot of introspection regarding detachment and pro-action, favorable to Krishna consciousness, favorable to our reunion with the Supreme Absolute. Yes, any comments or questions? All right, in the absence of... Okay.
Yeah, what Maharaj Parikshit pondering in death coming to him, he just decided to surrender to Krishna. He didn't make any effort to counteract those. So in our own lives. Now, should we just surrender to Krishna, or we make an effort? Where's the conflict? Oh, very well.
Can you repeat the question here?
So, like, where's where we draw the line? You surrender fully to Krishna, or you make an effort to cure ourselves?
That's it. For example, if you have a disease, do we just say, well, I think my time is up. Let me just wait for death. No. We make some efforts. Yeah, we're reading some story of by one of Prabhupada's disciples, Gorodas from Canto. He mentions when he went to Manor to be able to take second initiation. Then he got terribly sick. At that time, Prabhupada also was seriously ill. He was unpowerful. But Prabhupada abandoned completely all of his illness, inconveniences of his illness, and just focused on how to deal with Gora's case. And he was personally involved. He gives instructions on what to do, take him to this place, and take him to that place, give him this, and give him that. That was a typical case for us to learn from, that when we do have health challenges, we don't sit back and say, well, I think it's time. I just wait for death. I surrender to Krishna. That's not surrender. We have to be practical. We have to be pragmatic. Deal with situations as they arise, so as to be able to continue our services. The Manor case is a very peculiar case, that someone who is a devotee of the Lord, look at even the case of Haridas Thakur. He was so much aligned with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but look at the troubles that he had to undergo. Again, he was not reactive, but if you find yourself in a situation where someone is trying to violate your fundamental human rights, do you sit back and say, well, I just become like Haridas Thakur and then let them plug my eyes? No. See, it's so easy to misinterpret the scriptures and blame the system or blame Lord Krishna. We have to know what is required of us, what is our duty in a particular situation. If we see, take for instance, we see a situation where some devotee is being put into difficulty, do we just sit back and say, well, this is karma? No. We have to see how we devise an avenue to be able to help out. If someone is being put to difficulty either through a criminal effort by some criminals, we should do something about it. So in other words, we should be supportive to each other to be able to create a viable situation, an environment of trust, environment of interdependence. Maharaj Rishikesh was completely, beyond his own control, and he didn't want to bog Lord Krishna apart. Maharaj Rishikesh saw the bigger picture of the scenario. He was able to perceive the bigger picture of the scenario. It was for his own good. And so we could also say, whatever that happened to us is for our own good. Yeah, good enough. But should we not make some efforts to create a positive change? Why not? Otherwise, why would Prabhupada be so much concerned about Gauridasa's case? So yes, when we have some health challenges, we should address that to be able to be healthy, to continue to serve them. We have few people on the planet, few devotees on the planet compared to the whole population of the planet.
I think my question was, at what point do you decide that okay, now I'll surrender to Krishna? Is it obviously to do with how advanced the devotee is? Yeah? Is the point where you make an effort? Okay, so I keep now I'll surrender to Krishna.
Mm.
So it's kind of like a fine line. Is it to do advance and devotees?
Yeah, we always have to make our plans. Prabhupada said, make your plans, put it on Krishna like a garland. When we strategize, we make our plans, we put it on Krishna like a garland. We allow Krishna to enable the plans to flow. But it doesn't mean that we don't make any effort. I mean, the typical example is like on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna they want to shoot the arrows. Krishna was driving the chariot. Krishna would drive the chariot to whatever place that Arjuna wanted him to drive into, but Arjuna did the shooting. So that was a relationship that was also based on surrender, but it doesn't mean that Arjuna did not do anything. So the fine line that we can draw in our own case is that, yes, we make our plans, but we put it on Krishna as the decider of the final situation. In other words, if we have a living spiritual master, for instance, we should consult with our spiritual master what we should do. Because the whole problem arises when we make so much of independent decisions about our devotional life, about our pursuit for attaining the ultimate goal. When we do have instruction from the spiritual master, it makes it very easy. Otherwise, we could just be using our own mind. It could be so difficult to draw a fine line when we don't get instructions for what we need to do. So I'll give you my own typical example. Now, I got some specific instructions about what I need to do. And whether I am dying or not, I have to pursue that. And so when we don't have a sense of direction, it is very difficult to figure out how should I surrender, when and how do I get along with this. So the fine line basically depends on what consultations we have with our spiritual master, what he wants us to do, and then we'll be able to pursue that. Another typical example, look, when Krishna was on the planet, one day he just asked Subha, go and bring Radharani. Now, Radharani is so difficult to go and bring Radharani from her in-laws' home. But Krishna gave that instruction, knowing it's very difficult. Still, Subha went ahead to execute the instruction. And that was based on full surrender. Now, he got specific instruction on what to do, so he went. Although he didn't know exactly how to go about it, and because Krishna instructed him, he had faith in Krishna's instruction. He went there and was able to execute that instruction. So when we work closely with our spiritual master, we will not have any difficulties in terms of how we should surrender. And what fine line we have to draw. We may not be the ones to draw the fine line. We allow the spiritual master to help us to draw the fine line. Does it make some sense? The problem we have, and most of us have, is that I've seen so many devotees do this. They take initiation and they start working completely independently. And so you don't have a sense of direction. Now you have to figure out with your mind what you need to do, what directions you have to take. It's very difficult. Lord Krishna mentioned in the Gita, the mind in our conditioned state is the worst enemy. So we may not be able to perceive properly what is good for us and what is not good for us. What fine lines to draw at any particular situation. Otherwise, you see, look at the case of Jayapraka's family. Look at the type of challenges he's passing through. But because he's dedicated fully to Krishna, to his spiritual master, Prabhupada, whatever situation he finds himself, he's just trying to see that he moves on to try to help out, to effect a positive change in the life of the devotees. We do have a chance to be able to initiate a change. But I tell you what, 75% of change initiatives fail. 75% of change initiatives fail. You may decide by yourself, this is what you want to do, but 75% of change initiatives fail. So that is the reason why we need to align with a bona fide spiritual master to take instructions and let them decide our fate. Does it make some sense? Any other comments or questions before we leave? About 4 more minutes or so. Yes.
Thank you. This verse is explaining how Krishna Maharaj increased the fame of the Pandava dynasty. There's also a purport, I think it's in the second Canto. It said that 100 generations previously and in the future were liberated because of Krishna Maharaj's presence in that dynasty. It appears that he's like the preeminent personality of the Pandava dynasty. Is that the correct way to look at it? Because we obviously feel like Arjuna, we don't like saying he's great because he's related to Arjuna. It seems to me more like he's given prominence as the one that's delivering the Pandava dynasty. Can you comment on that?
Yeah. See, for a very great personality, I mean, Parshi basically is Raja Rishi. And so, Papa mentions that if you're a pure devotee, you liberate so many generations, I think 10 generations or so in your family, before you and after you. And so, not to talk of Raja Rishi. So, that basically is the fundamental ideology there. That for someone to become, and look at the intensity of his devotion. Look at how Krishna personally protected him when he was in his mother's womb. So there's a strong connection between Lord Manor and Lord Krishna. And so for us to hear that, he gives the Pandava dynasty so much of prestige. It's not just of social prestige. There was a spiritual prestige that was also very prominent there. So if someone is a king and it's just of great status, the family becomes glorious. But just beyond just a material glory or mundane glory, here is a perfect soul. And according to Prabhupada, when someone is perfected in their spiritual activities or devotional culture, they liberate so many generations. And liberating so many generations in the family, not just a pure devotee, but he, as a king, his glories are spread all over the world. So if someone, if you have a child in your family that, he's known all over the world and everywhere, he has so much money, he has so much power, the family. But here, in addition to that, his connection with Krishna is so potent. And that really enhances his glory. That enhances the fame of his family, of his dynasty. To become just a great soul, to become a pure devotee is not cheap. It's not like going to the mall to buy some grocery. In fact, look at his consciousness. He was facing a type of crisis, and all that he did was to resort to, he could have just gathered his soldiers to kill the Brahmin boy. He didn't do that. So you see, he had the perception of the bigger picture of the scene. It's only great souls, Mahatmas, who have that sense of perception. So that makes him great. That enables the glorification and glorification of his own dynasty. One person can just create so much of fame for the whole dynasty. And that was Maharaj Krishna. His strong connection with Krishna, his devotion to Krishna, his surrender to Krishna. All right. I think it's exactly the time.
We watched a film last night
Uh-huh.
of Hare Krishna. And what that also showed was very similar to what's been shown there. It was wonderful. And it was showing Prabhupada in that way. It was just to see his power and his influence was just by his example of his purity and what somehow the things and how he acted in all circumstances, it was just like sort of king parachute
Yeah.
to us.
Right. Right.
That's just the comment.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we see in the life of Prabhupada. I mean, he evokes so much of glory for not only the Vaishnava tradition, but I mean for the whole of India. One person who crossed the ocean to come to the West to establish Krishna consciousness successfully, practically without any financial resources. So when you do something great by dint of devotion, you create an indelible mark in the minds of people, and then the whole tradition becomes glorified. So thank you for your comments about the problem. Srila Prabhupada, Shrimad Bhagavatam.